Hello, and welcome back to A Mental Break. I'm your host, Taylor Simpson, and on today's episode, I have a very special guest, all the way from up north Ontario. I think that's really now. If you don't know this guy, you're sleeping under a rock. If you know me, because they're my favorite band of all time. Of course, I'm talking about Josh Bradford from Silverstein. What's up, man?
Hey, how are you, Taylor?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, thank you for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
I can't tell you how stoked I am that you're here and that you're willing to talk mental health with me today, man. So cool.
It's a pleasure. I think we have been kind of making tentative plans to do this for quite a while. Like, I think maybe we talked about it at a concert one time.
I think so, yeah.
Maybe even going back a couple of years at this point. I don't know.
I think definitely maybe chatting and stuff for sure. Like just, being friends outside of me being a fan of the band, but then definitely the podcast for at least the last year, I think.
Yeah.
I know that I DM'd you, I guess at the beginning of the year, probably.
Yeah.
When I started season 2 and I was like, fuck it. Let's just see what happens. You just know, whatever.
Yeah, man.
That's the thing. You just never know, man. Like I stuck my neck out a few times for other people, and what's the worst that could happen? They say no, you're like, all right, cool, thanks, I'll move on to the next person, whatever,
Yeah, absolutely. Never hurts to ask, and I'm happy to be here. I'm no stranger to some of these issues, and it's not all that often there's a appropriate platform to dive in. So
yeah, man, and I feel like I have a lot of musical guests on this podcast because I myself am a musician as well. And a lot of my friends are as well. So a lot of the friends that I have had on the show over the last 2 seasons have all been from the music background, right? So I just feel like the art community is so kind of ingrained in that mental health aspect as well, because we write a lot about it, right? So they kind of go hand in hand. So it's just funny that I had another guest come on that's from a bigger band, obviously, than all of us, but just slightly.
Oh, just been doing our thing for a while here, and I'm thrilled that anybody cares about it. It's been a real treat. And yeah, I think arts-minded people, generally what makes us that way is something that's maybe a little mentally different about us that
I think so,
allows us to be a little more sensitive or receptive. And I think that same thing that can help our creativity can also lead us down some darker paths at times. So I'm not surprised that there's a lot of arts-minded people that are having these discussions.
Yeah, willing to come on and open up. Well, we were talking off camera, and now we're on camera. But I was just talking to Josh about why I started this podcast and to give him a bit more behind the scenes of what we're about to talk about today. And it's super important to create this platform for people to feel safe and start a little community, if I can, to have people escape to and listen and learn and, just feel safe and feel comfortable and, know they're not alone in what they might be facing. And there's others out there that are facing the same thing. And we're all in this together, man. We're all one big human race, and we all suffer from different forms of mental health. And if I can create a small piece of the pie that makes it better, I mean, that's everything to me, right? So,
yeah, absolutely, man.
Anyways, buddy, so obviously I know who you are. Obviously. I've been a huge fan of your band for almost my entire life now at this point. I'm 29. I've been a fan since you guys first came out. So, my dad was into heavy rock and stuff. So, when you guys first came, well, my dad passed before that. But anyways, when you guys came out, we were, huge fans of you guys. So, been listening to you guys for a while, so I know who you are. But for everyone out there most of my audience is probably going to know who you are because they all listen to Silverstein too. But in case anybody out there who doesn't know who you are, just let people know a little bit about yourself, Josh.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Josh Bradford. I play the guitar in a I guess you would call it maybe emo or screamo, heavy rock.
Do you ever get tired of answering that question?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to define exactly what we do, and I think it's progressed a lot over the years. But
yes,
we started off as an emo band in our local scene around the suburbs around Toronto, and I don't think ever really saw it going anywhere, professional or having any sort of career, but it was something that we were passionate about doing, and we just, I think, found ourselves continually in the right spot at the right time, and people were taking notice, and we started traveling further and further from home, and ended up getting a record deal and releasing records and traveling around North America and then Europe and Australia, Asia, South America, just continually baby stepping into these different territories until, we've now been a band 22, almost 23 years.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. We've released 10 full-length albums and been to 45 countries playing music. So it's been a wild career to look back on. But I think throughout doing it, it's never, seemed like it's always been such a slow, gradual build that you don't really notice how far you've come until you look back on it. That's been the joy of my life, and been a wonderful career to see the world and make a living and have some insane experiences along the way.
Yeah, man. Tell us about like outside of Silverstein.
Outside of Silverstein,
You're a dog owner, just like me.
I'm a dog owner. Yeah, I love dogs. I love nature. I recently moved up a couple hours north of Toronto to be a little more at peace and a little more connected with the natural world. Where
out in the boonies.
Yeah, I can go walking in the forests and go paddling out on the lake and enjoy, just that deeper connection to the natural world. That's, I think, been a thing that's been really important to me for most of my life. I grew up with parents that were really into like skiing and camping and all kinds of stuff like that. So it really helped me develop a connection to the natural world. And I went to high school in Burlington.
Burlington,
Ontario.
Let's go.
Just growing up in the suburbs around Toronto, and spent most of my life there, enjoying outdoor pursuits and music.
Love that, man.
It's been a pretty crazy ride so far.
Dude,
40 years.
Damn, man, that's crazy. Well, thanks for that insight, man. And Shane was telling me you actually used to live down the street from me.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where you live. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So like south of Etobicoke, like Long Branch area.
Yeah, I had a condo at Park Lawn and Lakeshore with my wife.
Oh my God, you lived in closer to me than where I live now. That's crazy. I lived. Do you know? You're probably not gonna know. Like, do you know where the Sobeys used to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
In that plaza and like that street that went up the hill there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I lived on that apartment complex.
Yeah,
just up the road from Sobeys.
Yeah.
Damn, so we were neighbors.
Yeah, small world.
Crazy.
Yeah, we lived there for, I don't know, 7 years or so.
We definitely would have been neighbors then.
Yep. And then around just really before the pandemic, like we actually got married in 2019, but we've been together quite a while.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much. But yeah, right around the end of 2019 when we got married, we were already talking about leaving the city and seeking out a little more space and a little more, peace and quiet. And then the pandemic hit and everything shut down, and we found ourselves living in this tiny little glass box in the sky, and it was oppressive. It
I can imagine, man.
A really rough time. So as soon as we found the opportunity, we moved to have more space, and that connection to outside.
Bit more nature, a bit more greenery, eh?
Absolutely.
It's important, man. It's important.
I really enjoyed being out and doing anything outdoors when I was younger, and I think kind of in the middle of my life there, I lost track of that a little bit. But certainly in the last 10 years or so, I have really reconnected with it, and it's been incredibly important to me to have time in nature. I agree. Find it really, really grounding and really balancing. So,
absolutely, especially like in the noise of it all, right? Like it's so important to get back to basics.
I think so. Yeah, I don't know that everybody feels that way. I think we can all benefit from exposure to nature, but
Absolutely.
I know a lot of my friends are real city folk and really appreciate the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
And I think feel lost out in the natural world.
And
but
the wilderness, yeah.
Not so much for me. I think it's just what the doctor ordered for me.
I think I'm in the middle, man. I think I need a delicate balance of both. Because
Sure.
I'm a little bit younger than you, so it's like I still need to have that cityness, especially because like my career is still kind of blossoming
Yeah,
in music, and as you know, like you got to be where the people are.
absolutely.
So, to play shows and shit. So like I got to be here. So, but also I love getting away and being in nature too. So I definitely feel that one on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I think like anything, finding the right balance for you is what the real tale is. There, you gotta
I think so too.
make sure you're getting the right dosage of all those different things.
Of
that you
both
need
things. Yeah,
to
exactly.
thrive. Yeah.
Okay, before we jump into the next question, I do, because you said albums, and I was like, ooh, I have to ask this before they move on. I know you get this a lot probably, and I apologize. I'm just curious. Out of the 10 albums, well, really like 11, I think, right? Because there's, are you counting short songs as a record?
I don't know that I was including it. I think maybe it is. I don't even know anymore.
You're like, I don't know.
So many records.
I was going to say, you guys did a lot of records.
Yeah.
That's like probably, over 200 songs?
Yeah, it's up around there.
Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
So out of the records, let's say, I'll make it easier for you. I'm not going to pick a song. That's probably impossible. But out of the records, what's your favorite?
This is not a stock answer, though, it could be interpreted as such. But I really, really love our newest record. Misery Made Me. This is not a shameless plug of it. I just,
The label told me to say this.
No, it's very much my honest feeling at this point. After not being able to do music in the way that we had up until the pandemic, I think having the opportunity to create music again, really, really, pardon me, having the opportunity to create music again, like, not that we ever took it for granted before, but
Sure.
the passion behind it was definitely refreshed. And I think we all just came to the table a little more prepared and a little more present and a little more appreciative. And
Sure.
I think seriously, some of those songs are the best we've ever written, and I think they sound the best of any of our records. And just the collaborative effort and the general vibe that surrounded making that record was one of my favorite points in our entire career. So I think fondly of it because of all that.
That's definitely a good point, man. I mean, obviously it is the most recent in your memory too, so I'm sure that helps. But I think that's a good point you made about the whole COVID situation, and I'm sure we'll dive into that with mental health, obviously, because I'm sure it's a big factor in a lot of our lives, everybody, because we all went through it. But yeah, I had watched and heard a bunch from the making of Misery Made Me, and how you guys were like all kind of living together in that place out in Ancaster
area. It's
yeah.
More like Caledonia, I think.
Okay, got it. Cool.
Yeah, and that's something too. Like, we lived together making not the first record because we were still living at home and made that record around home, but the second and third record we went down and stayed in California and lived all together.
Discovering the Waterfront.
Discovering the Waterfront and Arrivals and Departures.
Yeah.
And not since then have we kind of lived together during the making of it. So I think it's something special when you are not just like punching in and making music for the day and then punching out and going home, staying kind of immersed with each other. It's a different experience, and I have to think it helped add to the vibe as well.
Well, you could definitely hear it, man. Like, I love these songs on the record. I mean, I love anything you put out, so it's a biased opinion, but but no, honestly, earnestly, like I do really like the new record a lot. I had no idea really what to expect from you guys, because it had been, a couple years since Beautiful Place to Drown.
Yep.
And I know you guys were going, oh God, God forbid I say this, but a more poppier direction with the last record. And like, don't scold me, please, Josh.
Won't scold you.
Hey, but I don't care. Like, I'm down for it. Like, I'm not one of those people that are like gatekeeping. Like, I thought it was cool that you guys brought new elements into the metal scene or rock scene or whatever.
I think we've tried to do that with every record and just kind of push the boundaries of what it means to be a Silverstein song or a Silverstein record.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think there's poppy elements throughout the career.
The new record. And
the new record especially has a lot of them, but I think we kind of refocused in a way that allowed the heavier elements to be more apparent. Because I think there was definitely some heavy moments even on A Beautiful Place to Drown.
Yeah, but, Madness.
Sure. Bunch of good riffs on that record.
Great riffs.
But perhaps treated with a bit more of a pop gloss that maybe shifts the vibe in the listener's
Yeah, it's
mind.
like you painted it with the heaviness, and then the veneer on top was like a nice poppy glaze.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, man, and like I love the saxophone in Beautiful Place to Drown and All of Me. That's amazing. I was like, what the hell?
By that.
This is so sick.
Yeah,
more saxophone and metal, please.
I think so. That's what it needs.
Yeah, man. So you wrote Cold Blood, right?
Yeah, I had
had a helping
part
hand
in that. Yeah, I feel like I thrive the most in collaborative efforts. I can get a little lost working on my own, so I'd like to work with other people to bounce ideas off of and have them kind of filter my ideas through.
Right.
So yeah, that song had a little more of my influence on it than a bunch of the others.
Because I watched or listened to the podcast of that song that you guys put out. Because that's one of my favorite songs on the record, honestly.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. And I heard that you made a lot of the riffs on that one. And you had that like lead in the chorus that I really liked too.
Yeah, cool.
It was cool,
Thanks, man.
Of course, dude.
Yeah, I love playing guitar, and I come up with lots of little bits and pieces, but never can decide how to glue them together. And
that's what Paul Mark's for.
He's got such a great editorial mind. He can really turn things into something bigger and better than they start off. So
yeah, man,
it's been a joy.
Okay, well, thank you for appeasing me and answering that question.
No problem.
I'll move on from Silverstein stuff. I'll stop geeking out now.
All good, my friend.
All right, man. So I always ask the guests before we like really dive into the heavy stuff. Do they feel comfortable today and safe speaking about their personal health or personal mental health with me today on the podcast? Because I think we're living in 2022 now. Consent is super important. So I just want to make sure I have consent from you to talk about some of the stuff we're going to talk about today.
Thank you for asking, and yes, absolutely. I came here ready and prepared to open up and honestly answer questions that again, like I am happy being open about this stuff, but don't often find myself standing on the right stage to do so. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the opportunity because, as we were speaking about before we started rolling here, I think it's super important for people to share their experiences and hopefully make other people that are going through things not feel so isolated in what they're experiencing. Because though we feel very alone in the moments of dealing with these things, it's certainly not completely isolated. I think most people at some point in their life have these same thoughts and feelings,
Yeah, I agree,
knowing
man.
that and sharing that, I think helps bring us all a little closer together.
That's cool, man. I'm glad that we're on the same page with that. And like, I'm glad that you're agreeing to come on the show and talk about it and stuff and just make it more like, and like, not even to say that like you're on a bigger platform than I am. That's not the point, but like, just to get it out to more people's ears is all I care about, man. And it's cool Absolutely. That you agree with what I'm trying to do with this podcast and basically my entire, I don't want to call it brand. That sounds weird, but like my entire voicing is all about that. Like, cause I do music as well. And all my music is about the same thing. My personal struggles, mental health. And I sing a lot about that. And my whole brand with that is the same thing, like pushing mental health awareness and suicide prevention. Same thing with the podcast. Like it's all I breathe is this, right? So I'm just glad that you see it the same way and that we can have an open discussion about it. It's cool,
Absolutely.
man. Okay, man, with that being said, just going to dive right in. What mental health struggles or illnesses do you deal with, if any?
So I would say that my main concerns are in the areas of anxiety and depression.
The big two.
They do seem to like to go hand in hand.
Oh, yes, they're married.
Yes. I feel like I have maybe struggled is not the right word, but like had tendencies towards these issues for maybe most of my life, and just really didn't pay close enough attention. Maybe they were not kind of big enough at the earlier points in my life to be perfectly noticeable.
Right.
But looking back and knowing more as I do now, I can see the kind of inklings of it, going back to being, definitely preteen. Like I have real vivid memories of not being able to fall asleep when I was, 8, 9, 10.
Right.
Starting to be really concerned with mortality, knowing that one day I was going to die and that everybody I loved was going to die one day.
Yeah.
And starting to feel just, I guess, not so much alone with that, but just powerless to control that. And I think anxiety is a big control issue. And I remember not being able to sleep, just lying there, ruminating, thinking about these things from a very young age. And I don't think, like, my parents were not unaware, but I don't think they understood how serious it felt for me.
Right.
And I don't know that at that point, because this would have been, 30 plus years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know that the conversation around it was as open or information was as accessible. Like, I think back then it was less and less common for people to talk about it, first of all, and secondarily, like to do anything about it and to know what to do. I think maybe kids that had gone through severe traumas got to go to therapy to work out some of these issues, but I think it was just not as common for, my kid can't sleep. Like, I don't think the first thing that most parents would have thought to do back then was to try and get some sort of professional help for them.
Right.
So I recall my mom putting on like somewhat soothing music. And
like
I think
Mozart or something.
Yeah, we worked with classical music like
Yeah.
that a fair bit. But then also tried like the Beach Boys and
Oh, nice.
Bob Marley. I think a lot of my early love of music comes from listening to stuff like that while trying to fall
Interesting.
asleep and trying to have it, ease my
Kind of soothe you.
my worried little mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
To this day, Bob Marley is one of my favorite artists of all time, and has generally a pretty feel good tone to what he's doing.
Yeah.
Despite, like, now that I'm older, I know that a lot of his songs are kind of political and protesty.
Yeah.
But I didn't pick up on that as a youngster,
as a
and I just
as a
like
child.
the island vibes and the
Yeah.
just like a good little bouncy rhythm. So I dealt with that a lot until I became a teenager, and then all the teenage problems that come up.
Oh yeah.
Learning to navigate the world and the societal pressures and the, just struggling to find your identity and your place. Definitely made those feelings a lot more strong, but also kind of masked because, the adolescence is a tough period for just about everybody.
Yeah, for sure. But then with somebody dealing with mental health on top of it, it's even worse, right? So
I think so. But that's also around the age where you can generally get your hands on substances. So I started to try and, I guess not so much knowingly, but I started experimenting with alcohol and marijuana to, I think, avoid some of those thoughts and feelings. And it kind of worked. But I think what I've learned over the years is that some of those not so wonderful coping mechanisms can work for a while, and then they lose their effects, or at least their ability to squash those feelings. And so in the past, maybe not quite 10 years, but starting around 10 years ago, I started to notice that I would have really, really down days where really nothing helped me. And I'd have periods of very much heightened experience where I felt unable to manage or cope with things going on around me, and felt a need to try and plan and prepare for things. And so I started to realize that I was dealing with anxiety and depression. And I started to notice that my favorite old coping mechanisms were not working so well. So I had to start to look for other options. And my wonderful wife, Nicole, has, had some experience with therapy and has been gently nudging me towards it for quite a while now.
It's important, man.
That support has meant the world to me. And even I think one of the hardest things about starting something like therapy is it's not when you are feeling good that you need it, and there will be those periods of feeling good where you're like, oh, I'm fine. I don't think I actually need it. I just, I just was having a moment there. Yeah. And so you don't set yourself up for, starting that process. And then once you're finally in crisis again, it's kind of a little too late to never too late, but it's not the ideal time to start. The ideal time is before you're in crisis.
Of course. Well, there are crisis hotlines you can call if you need to in those moments.
Absolutely. And I think maybe societal stigma around this stuff has helped push me away from it, but it has gotten worse and worse to the point where I couldn't deny it. And I saw the impact it was having on my wife and on our relationship. And finally started seeking out, and even in the moments where I was feeling fine, not fooling myself into thinking that the fine was going to last forever, realizing that there's definitely a pattern happening here, and I should be in those better moments finding, using that period of feeling better to feel empowered to seek out what I needed for the moments where I wasn't.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, so I found a therapist that worked out of a community center near me and started seeing her.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, it's the funniest thing that I experienced in the start of that therapy journey was this feeling of just starting down that path had helpful effects. Before
Yeah,
we'd
man.
even really had a conversation, just knowing that I had booked a session, like, made me feel better.
Hey, man, it's taking the strides to better your mental health, right?
Yeah, I think just knowing that you are doing something to try,
To alleviate.
yeah, can really have curative effects.
Absolutely, man.
It's been a rocky road. The first therapist that I had gone to see there left the position like a couple sessions in.
Oh, that's tough, man.
And they assured me that they were going to hire a new person for that position. And so I was just sitting waiting. And that ended up being like 7 months.
Oh, wow.
Before they got a new person. I kept calling back and being like,
Hey, man,
I'm
like,
not
what's going
doing
on?
so good, and I'm kind of counting on this. Like, do you have the new person?
Yeah.
And they did not. So I, was trying to do some online, like, self-guided, like, workbooks that lean on, like, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yep.
That you can kind of do by yourself, and I did get something out of those too, just in the interim while waiting for this new therapist to come on at this community center that I was going to. But I felt like what I really needed was a human connection and somebody to help guide me through it.
Of course. Everyone's different, right? So
I think so. Finally, the new person came on, and my experience with them was not great.
happens,
They
man.
would we'd have an appointment scheduled, and at this point I was living further away. I couldn't actually make it in person.
Right.
So we were going to have like phone call sessions.
Sure.
And yeah, they would miss appointments and then call me on days where we didn't have appointments, and just the whole thing was kind of a bit of a mess, and I felt like it was not helping me.
No, clearly not.
Adding to
Anxiety.
stressors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think my takeaway from those first two experiences, and then even the next few after that, were that, it is a process to find the right fit.
Of course.
And it's not always going to be smooth at first, but finding the right person can make a huge impact.
Absolutely, man. And that just goes to show you like how much work needs to be done in the mental health community still.
I think so. Yeah.
You know what I
think
mean?
Access to it is the first problem, and
Limited already.
It's already limited, and I think when you're dealing with these issues, it can be very hard to even start the process of finding somebody, and it is, in my experience, a huge process.
It is a huge process.
I ended up using an app for a little bit, BetterHealth.
BetterHelp. Yep.
And at this point, I had come to this realization that, it's not going to be perfect, and you have to kind of have a little trial run with a therapist before deciding whether or not they are going to work for you.
Yeah, of course.
And I think I went through 2 or 3 people with the app before I found somebody that I felt was helpful.
Yeah.
And with that last person, we talked a bunch, and I think made some serious progress. But then it kind of also found like it felt like our relationship had run its course.
Right.
And so I had to move on again. And I have finally found somebody that lives near me that
that's good.
is able and willing to see me in person, as well as to keep up with me digitally while I'm away.
While you're away, yeah.
And they fit me perfectly. It's just a very natural conversation, and they always have something to add to it, and there's inevitably going to be moments where you're feeling a little extra lost and don't know where to lead the conversation, or
Right.
know like what you're trying to achieve, and she's actually always able to kind of keep me on track and to guide it, and to pick up the slack when I'm not feeling so able to be present.
Right.
And so I feel like I'm finally in the the best position I have been, and that's after like I think 5 different therapists.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I went through 6, I think, in my life so far, and I have found somebody now, just like you, that I've matched with, and it works. But it's
Amazing.
a process, right? So
it certainly is, and I want to express that in an effort to be honest and transparent,
of course,
but all definitely with the hope not to dissuade anybody.
No, definitely not. Yeah,
because like it is difficult to find that right fit, but once you do, that's when the real magic starts to happen, and you can actually make it all worth headway. It. I think so. So if anyone out there is struggling to find the right person, keep trying, and trust your instincts. If it's not feeling like a good fit, then it's okay to try and move on and find somebody else. And I think there will be somebody out there that's just right for you, and you can
absolutely
make a lot of impact on what you're experiencing by talking to the right person.
Of course, man. I mean, thank you for all that. That was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot, but that's kind
good,
of where I've been at and where I'm at right now. It has helped me immensely. I definitely feel a lot better. I think my depressive episodes are getting shorter and less frequent.
That's great, man.
And my anxiety is, I think both of these things have a tendency to rear their ugly heads from time to time. But
of course,
I am better set up to manage it than I ever was, and than I really ever thought I could be. So it's been hugely impactful, and I am grateful for having found somebody that works for me and that is able to help me navigate life
man.
a little more smoothly. Yeah,
man. So I mean, that pretty much covered a lot of the questions I had. But hey, let's see what happens.
Yeah,
we'll dive deeper.
Yeah, I didn't mean to steamroll through it. I just thought
that's totally fine, man.
Was all
everyone answers differently, and everyone interprets the question differently, right? So
sure. Yeah.
It's a podcast. We talk. That's what it is.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being open and telling us the story.
It's a pleasure, and I think, like we were saying, I think it's important for people to be open and transparent about this stuff.
Absolutely, man. I mean, my next question after that one was, have you ever been formally diagnosed? And if you haven't, would you consider it?
Yeah, so I have not really liked doctors for a long time. Nobody does. I think really very few people do.
And I asked this question with hesitate. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
I asked this question in hesitation because just because you're diagnosed or not diagnosed doesn't make it not validated to you. I want to preface that. I'm just curious where people stand on diagnosis. Does that make it more real for them, or are they scared of the diagnosis and they'd rather just face it on their own with their therapist or whatever outlet they're using? I'm just curious. I'm just bringing up the question as a curiosity thing more than you should get diagnosed. That's not what I'm saying. That's not.
I think much like therapists, there's different qualities to doctors. There's a whole range of people that find themselves in the medical profession. I think part of my dislike has been a bit of a distrust because, I have had doctors that have been dismissive of things that I've expressed, and that doesn't feel good, and it causes you to question the validity of your own experience. And I think, maybe there are some people in the profession that are not, maybe they are brilliant with certain aspects of medicine, but, you got to treat the whole system and body and mind and all this.
Maybe they lack the empathy involved in mental health specifically.
Yeah, I think it's possible that some of them are kind of living in a bit of an alternate reality where they don't see these things as being quite as valid unless they are super serious. And I don't know how you gauge how serious something is like from an outside perspective, you know.
Sure, yeah.
And I think you have to trust and believe and be willing to help send people down the right paths to finding what they need to manage themselves. So yeah, I did not go to the doctor for a long time.
Right.
Like a really long time. My childhood, my mom got really into holistic medicine and natural wellness and stuff like that. And so we just didn't even go to kind of more traditional, well, not, I don't know if traditional is the right word here based on the other things I'm talking about, but Western medicine was not as big in our toolbox. We were going to different practitioners of many different disciplines for many different things, and I finally decided that I'm getting a little older now, and I should probably see a Western doctor as well. So I started going again, and I found again somebody that was wonderful. I have seen doctors that I have not had a whole lot of faith or trust in, and I finally started working with somebody that took all of my concerns seriously and wasn't dismissive. And if there was something that they didn't know a whole lot about, they would do some research and then get back to me.
That's great. Wow.
It was a completely different experience than any
180
doctor experience I'd ever had. And she very seriously considered all of my issues, and I don't know how formal the diagnosis was, but she said it certainly sounds like you're dealing with some anxiety and depression. She was the one that first referred me to the therapist at this community center.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but unfortunately that
didn't work out.
We
Obviously,
already discussed how that didn't work out, but
but it's good that the doctor even recommended it, though. That's great.
Yeah, and she gave me like pamphlets of, exercises that you can do for body and mind, and lists of books to read about the diagnosis, and also was more than willing to subscribe to prescribe me SSRIs, antidepressants, which I had a strong feeling that my issues could very well be a chemical imbalance in my brain, but I was not sure that the best course of action was to just try and medicate.
Yeah.
I felt pretty strongly that I wanted to have other mental health supports in place if I was going to try and do some medication. And yeah, we already discussed how me finding mental health supports went for the first couple of years, really, of trying to take this seriously.
Right.
So I had a prescription that just sat in the drawer for a long time, and I never ended up taking it. And with my newest and most effective therapist, I have discussed that, and she has agreed that she thinks it's right to have a little more in place than just the medicine. And I think we have done a good job of discussing the issues and finding new ways to cope that have not necessitated me taking medications.
Right, of course.
But with that still on the table, if
need be, obviously.
If need be.
Yeah, I think every case is different. I think every person is at a different level of severity with the depression, anxiety, and
absolutely,
I agree with you. I don't think meds should be the immediate action or course of action to take, because that's what happened to me when I was younger. I was on meds at 14, because I was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and OCD.
Yeah,
all at the same time, basically, because my parents passed away when I was really young.
Yeah.
And so it was a huge trauma. My body kicked into overdrive and created all these quote unquote defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
you know, the OCD and the anxiety, the fear of control. And so I was put on meds at 14, 15 years old. But that wasn't my choice. I was young, so I didn't get, like, they're just like, here, take this, kid. And that wouldn't have been my first notion, obviously, but I was not in the right mindset at 15 to decide what's best for my health, right? So, but yeah, I agree though. Like but everyone's different, right?
Yep.
Like
I know a lot of people that are on medication and have feel strongly that it has turned themselves around.
Of course.
Changed their lives, and I don't discount that. I just
no, of course. I felt
pretty strongly. I wanted more support in place to.
Yeah, of course. You want to try one method first before going to medication, which seems like, I don't want to call it the end, but like, you know, it's a pretty big step.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think, you know, like I want to hope that there can be a way out of this for most people. It very likely is going to be something that we deal with our entire lives, but to find ways to manage it that don't necessitate a, you know, something that you can't bring with you. Like if you were lost in the wilderness, you know, I would want to. There's no pharmacy in these trees. But I would like to have, you know, some ideas about ways that I could help myself deal with thoughts and feelings that are more innate to my physiology and not just about something that I'm deficient in.
Of course. Yeah, no, I agree, man. Well, thank you for elaborating on that. So it sounds like you did get a semi-formal diagnosis.
Yeah, like
How did you feel when you got the diagnosis? Did it clarify it for you? Did it make it feel real? Did it validate you? Or was it just kind of like, I already knew kind of thing?
I think a little bit of all of those. It created a little bit of conflict in me because on one hand it was relieving,
right,
and on the other it was like a little more depressing. It's like, oh, there really is
now it's
something
true
wrong with me.
Yeah. I could see that.
But like I think those two things balanced each other pretty well. Like it did feel good to know and to be validated in the ways that I was feeling, and
right.
Like I mentioned earlier with starting therapy, it felt like a step in the right direction, like that I was doing something about it.
Yeah, exactly. It almost kind of like started your path, if you want to look at it in a positive light. Like getting the diagnosis, for a lot of people I've talked to as well, like getting the diagnosis, you know, you got to try and put a positive spin on something, right? Mm-hmm. And it could be looked at as like, okay, yes, it's shitty and I have this now and it's made it real, but now it's real. Yeah. Now I have it in front of me. And like, so what are the steps I need to take to make this easier for myself?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It kind of gives you a starting point.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's hard to see it that way at first, obviously, like for all of us.
Can be. Yeah.
You know, it's obviously a very difficult realization to make. But I feel like when you do come to terms with it, you can spin it on its head and be like, you know what? Okay, I have this now. So what do I do to get this better? Or how do I manage this now? And then you can start on that path.
It just gives you, you know, once you've accepted something, then you can figure out what to do about it.
Exactly, exactly. Anyways, buddy, so you kind of already addressed a lot of this in the next question I'm going to ask you, but if you feel like you want to elaborate any further, by all means. Just what's your experience been like, or your perspective of dealing with your mental health over the years? And the way I kind of imagine this question is kind of like, and I say this every podcast, so my listeners are probably getting tired of me saying this now, but just so that you know, I kind of imagine it's like a timeline. So like, I mean, you kind of already went over this already, but just, you know, if you missed anything or do you want to bring up anything in particular, kind of take us from like when you started feeling these symptoms or tendencies, like you said, of the anxiety and depression, and just give us like a walkthrough up until now of what that experience has been like for you with mental health. Yeah.
So I will try and elaborate on some of the things I said earlier when I
I mean, like
laid
I said,
a bunch of this out, but I in hindsight, realize that I had been kind of suffering, experiencing symptoms for really most of my life, certainly from childhood. I think I was always a fairly sensitive, emotional kid, and I think that it was overlooked as just being a little extra sensitive.
Like high strung almost.
Yeah, when it wasn't just something that I was necessarily going to grow out of. I think
it's not a phase.
Some of us are wired. Yeah. I just feel deeply, and it that can be a beautiful thing, but it can also get you into some trouble. I was feeling pretty comfortable with it for the majority of my teenage years, through the help of weed and booze.
The vices.
Yeah, the vices that put a real good Band-Aid over these kind of deep wounds. Like I had a lot of great friends, and like a pretty happy home life. Dated a bunch of wonderful girls throughout growing up. But yeah, always had moments of, deep feeling. And it got to a point where, instead of alleviating anxiety, the drinking and smoking were not doing a very good job of it anymore. And I found myself with, I guess, these even more deeply rooted issues that I had never addressed, that my vices were no longer effectively covering. And I really have to give a lot of credit to my wife, because I think when you're in it, you don't see it as clearly, and when you're having like better periods of time, it's easier to kind of forget and dismiss and brush off those darker times. But she brought to my attention that she noticed it seemed like a pretty common pattern for me, and really encouraged me to seek some support for it. And I think, I had been trying to, but not all that seriously. I think part of me was maybe concerned that I was going to be told that I was drinking too much and smoking too much, and that I would have to stop doing those things that I was really enjoying.
Sure.
And then a huge catalyst for me was I had a bit of an event a couple of years ago, where we were chilling, watching a movie. I'd had a couple of beers and had just smoked some pretty strong weed, as I had, and I had been a smoker for most of my adult life, and never found myself really getting too high. It was always manageable, but this particular evening, just sitting on the couch, chilling, watching a movie, all of a sudden I felt weird. In a way that I hadn't ever experienced before. And then I all of a sudden had these physical symptoms, felt like somebody punched me really hard in the chest. And then my guts all started like tingling and burning. And I thought I was having some sort of, medical
reaction or something?
Issue, some sort of episode. I was like, is this a heart attack? Is it a stroke? Like, I don't know, but this feels like a very serious, very real, very physical manifestation. Like, I had no idea what it was, but I thought I was dying. And it was accompanied by a bit of dissociation. I felt like I was observing myself. Kind of hear myself speaking to my wife, but like it didn't feel like I was in control of that. I was like witnessing it.
Right.
And my heart just started racing, and I thought I was dying. So she took me to the hospital, and they hooked me up to a bunch of machines, and concluded that I was having some sort of, cardiac episode, but it was almost entirely, they felt almost entirely due to smoking weed, and it was a just massive panic attack.
Panic attack, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I've had anxiety attacks before, but never something that manifested in such a physical way. And so that really shook me. I didn't enjoy that experience at all. It was not manageable at all. I felt embarrassed. I felt really awful about putting my wife through, having to drive me to the hospital in the middle of the night, and having her concerned about me when,
of course,
it was not as necessarily like physically dangerous as it felt. And so that really kind of scared me. And I didn't drink or smoke again for, a couple months. I decided I really needed to take a break from that and reassess my relationship with these things that had always treated me so well and helped me squash these feelings. And in doing that, I had a lot more clear, focused view of the mental issues that I was experiencing.
Right.
And I had to deal with them a little more head on than through this cloud of smoke or through a beer bottle.
Yeah.
And it was difficult. It was certainly very challenging.
Yeah.
And that, really pushed me to seek out, some better mental health supports in the form of therapy. Whenever I do still drink, and occasionally smoke, but it doesn't treat me like it used to.
Right.
Whenever I smoke now, it does feel like I'm kind of teetering on the edge and that it could go off into dangerous territory. And, that's not very fun.
No. Yeah.
So I find myself doing it much less and with much less potent, cannabis.
Sure.
And, it has totally changed my relationship with both of those vices. And I somewhat feel grateful because I was certainly living in a fog.
Yeah.
And it has allowed me to have a more clear view of my challenges and to take them a little more seriously. And it pushed me to start seeing this therapist. And so I have been going, pretty much weekly for about a year now.
Good for you, man.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
But it felt like as I had a more clear view of these issues, I felt like I wanted to really go at it pretty strongly and get a good foundation. And then I think we can probably roll it back to twice a month, maybe once a month at some point. But I feel like I have enjoyed the process so much that I will likely continue in at least some capacity for the rest of my life. I definitely think you should. Something. Yeah, I think it's something that even if you don't have clear struggles, I think it's something that just about everybody can benefit from. Just
Absolutely.
Having a neutral, not like third party that it doesn't have any agenda or objective other than supporting you and trying to help you be the best that you can be.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree. It's so important. And a note that I wanted to add to what you just said there was that excuse me if it feels like I'm being dismissive. That's not the approach I'm trying to take with this saying this, but is there any giant traumas that you've suffered in your life that you can bring up to pinpoint where the anxiety and depression came from, or it was just in you the whole time?
Yeah, I have tried really hard to take a look back through my life and see if there's any really pinpointable events, but I struggle to find anything to point directly to.
Well, that's my point, though, is that like, and I'm saying that in a positive light, but not really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not a positive light, but in terms of like, you don't have to have a massive trauma to be dealing with mental health.
Certainly not.
Because I think people have this notion of like, oh, well, so and so died when you were younger, like that's why you have mental health, like that's why you have depression or anxiety, or whatever. Like that's where it's pinpointed, and it's like that isn't always the case. You can just have anxiety, depression, not like, I don't want to say naturally, but like it could just be in you, like a chemical imbalance in your brain. It might not be caused from anything in particular you can pinpoint, like a big traumatic event. But like you said, everyone suffers from it in their own capacity, right? In your case, and a bunch of my friends, right? So
I think it is truly just part of being human. We have this massive brain, and it, for better or for worse, is always processing things. And sometimes it doesn't tie the ends up all that neatly. And
no, it does not.
It can take a lot of time for the issue to present itself. But I think, no matter how good your childhood was, no matter how easy or fun your life has been, you can always find things that your brain has trouble dealing with. And
yeah, man,
I think we just have too much capacity for thought.
Literally, man. I mean, I always use like Robin Williams as a good example of this.
Yeah.
Of like someone who from the outside looking in has it all. Beautiful
Certainly.
family, kids, huge career.
Huge.
Very funny guy. Still ended up the way he ended up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. All these external
really
factors, like it's internal that matters the most.
Yeah. And you can have it all and still not feel well,
Yeah, that is depression. That is
absolutely. And like I think I have been reluctant to talk about this at some points because like I'm certainly not on the level of some of these huge celebrities that have it all and are still dealing.
It's relative to you though.
But for myself, like I look and I have pretty much everything I've ever dreamed of, and I feel very fortunate. But it does not. You can have what you want and still find issue.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like, and like that's even further from me saying that because like obviously you have an established band that's been around for 22 years and you've sold, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of copies of records, and like you said, you're living what you wanted your dream to be. And like me, like I'm still starting out of my music career, like it hasn't got anywhere, but I'm still happy. Like I'm still doing the thing I want to be doing.
Absolutely.
And I'm still not happy. It's just like there's different levels to this, right? Like
yeah. Like I sometimes I wonder how helpful it is for people that are not in a good place in their life. Like they don't feel like they have anything going for them and they are like seemingly have a lot of reason to be unhappy, to feel depressed, to struggle.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's helpful to hear that people that have everything they've ever dreamed of are also doing it or not, right?
It does kind of feel weird saying it.
I can see how that would cause somebody that like feels like their life is shit to be like, well, what's the point of all this? Like, even if I got everything, yeah. So that is concerning.
Let's be clear. That's not the approach we're trying to take here on the pod.
Certainly is not.
That's not what we mean. But we're just saying that like mental health affects everybody on equal playing ground, regardless of what you have, what you don't have.
I think that is the best point to drive home there. And I think you can find joy in life in a lot of different places, and it doesn't have to be from some grand dream coming true.
Yeah, like touring around the world in Silverstein or playing local shows in my band, whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Like, I was just kind of like piggybacking on what you were about to say, I'm sure. But what I started to learn, especially in the last year and a half after the bullshit fucking 2 years we've had with COVID, is you have to enjoy little things. You know, like,
Absolutely.
I don't know if you watch Zombieland, but that's like one of the rules in Zombieland is to enjoy little things.
Yeah.
You know, I always reference it, but like, yeah, it's just, it sounds cliche and it sounds like a joke, but it's real, man. Like, you have to enjoy little things in life because we took stuff for granted before. Like, regardless of whether you thought you did or not, we did. That's just part of human nature.
Yeah.
And then
sure.
it was presented to us and taken away for 2 years, and no one had an option. It just went away, and we're like, wow, like sitting there like left with nothing, going like, wow, this is fucked up. Like, Jesus, I miss these things that I took for granted. You know what I mean? Like, just be able to go to the mall or something, or go to a concert, or even smaller than that, like just go for a walk with your dog or whatever, right? Like, everything now has to be viewed like that. And I think, to your point of somebody that's looking at us going, oh, but they have all these things and they're still not happy, dial it back. Find what makes you happy in a smaller way, in like smaller integers. It doesn't have to be these grandiose things like being in Silverstein or being in my band. Like, it's as small as you woke up this morning.
Mm-hmm.
You took a deep breath. You had breakfast. You went for a nice walk in nature because that's important to Josh and I. Like, whatever that may be, you know, like that's the point that I'm trying to drive home as well, especially after what we just talked about. So,
yeah, I think shifting that perspective can be very challenging, but I think that is one of the big life hacks there is finding the time and the, I guess, presence to like experience these things with that fresh set of senses and to appreciate them. I've been working to also support my mental wellness, to do a lot of meditation.
super important.
I cannot stress enough how wonderful it can be if you dedicate yourself to it. But yeah, finding that kind of stillness in your mind and not identifying and getting lost in every thought that you have, and being able to be more present for small things like a sunrise or a sunset or a beautiful flower or just how good that peanut butter sandwich tastes. Like a cup of coffee, a good cup of coffee,
whatever,
even
man.
a bad cup of coffee,
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Nescafe.
A bad cup of coffee when you're camping tastes better than the best cup of coffee in the hottest cafe in the biggest city in the world. Like,
I agree.
And yeah, just shifting that perspective and being present for it, you know, because like we can skip past all these things and not pay them enough attention when we're, you know, kind of stuck ruminating, just running on these cyclical thoughts in our minds. You can really overlook a lot of these just beautiful, simple things that are truly what makes life worth living if you
absolutely
can stop and slow down and appreciate them.
I mean, we're all guilty of it too, right? Like, none of us are
Absolutely.
perfect in that regard. And like you said, it's a process to start shifting your mindset to that, obviously. And like, it's not going to be easy, but you have to start taking the steps to do it and be easy with yourself.
Absolutely.
I feel like so many people, especially nowadays after what happened, are so hard on themselves and pushing themselves and like critiquing themselves to get to that point, right? To start to appreciate things, to start to be more present in life. Like, I'm struggling tremendously with that right now, trying to be present, especially because the world is picking back up again, right? Like, I'm putting up my second record in a couple of weeks. I'm playing a huge release show in Toronto. I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. Like, you know, I'm trying to get signed to a label. All these things are happening so quickly in my life now, in my career, that it's like, what the fuck? I can't even slow down to like take this all in. Like, and before I know it, it'll be done. The album will be out. The show will be done. Like, I'll be signed to a label. Like, brrr, you know what I mean? I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
it's scary, man.
It's a challenge to slow down when the world feels like it's going so fast. But I cannot overstate how impactful it can be, and like it can be. It doesn't have to be like sitting in formal meditation for 20 minutes on a cushion, cross-legged in the like dark. It can be as simple as like just trying to appreciate something as you notice it, and trying to notice more things. But like, just take one extra breath and ponder that thing. You know?
For sure, man.
Like, you walk past a pretty flower, don't just be like, oh, pretty flower, and go about your day. Like,
admire
sure,
it.
you don't have a lot of extra time, but like, pause for a second, take a big breath in and out, and look at it, and then continue with your day. Like, it can be as
take a
simple as
screenshot
that.
in your mind of it, so you remember it later. You know.
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
Like, we can notice these things, but just not pay them quite as much attention. And I think just slowly shifting into giving it that much more attention, even if it's just for one breath.
For one breath, exactly, man.
That can be huge.
I'll tell you an interesting story, Josh. It's funny because I feel like I've been talking to you forever now, and like we just know each other now, which is great. That's kind of happens when you're talking about mental health, though. You become very open with somebody.
Deeply personal stuff.
It's huge, man. So a personal story of mine, and like most of my audience knows this already, but forgive me, audience, I got to tell Josh. I was a drug addict for 5 years. Yeah, for 5 years. I'll spare you the details of all the other stuff in there, but I had a bad problem with drugs. And I hit rock bottom twice, and I went to rehab to fix that problem. And I was in rehab for about 6 months, and I got out, and I was clean for the first 2 months out of getting out of rehab for the first time, and then relapsed. And I go back to rehab for a year. Then I got out after a year, and I've been sober for 8 years now. It'll be 9 in January.
Congratulations, that's huge.
Thank you, man. Thank you. But part of my recovery process after the second stint at rehab I did was meditation. And they sent me to a unorthodox Buddhist temple here in Mississauga. It's not like a typical Buddhist temple, but like they do meditation there and stuff, right? And they are partnered with the rehab facility that I went to. So as part of the process of healing, I went to the temple and I studied meditation with one of the monks there, which was a crazy experience. And so a part of it is like letting go of everything, like detaching yourself from societal pressures, from what you did today, what you're going to do tomorrow, like leaving all of that behind and like really releasing your mind of everything, which is incredibly hard to do.
Absolutely.
And I was at the temple for 3 months as part of the healing process. And within those 3 months, I don't think I ever really fully mastered what they were trying to teach me, because just you can't teach somebody that in 3 months. It takes a lifetime. But what a cool experience I had at the temple was I think it was like my last week there at the end of the 3 months. And I remember we were doing one of our meditation sessions where we sit in a circle and they hit this like big gong, and it kind of like you're supposed to focus on the noise of the gong, and that helps you cancel out all your thoughts. And I don't want to say the goal of the session was to like have an outer body experience, but that's kind of what the monks are all about, right? Like leaving your body, not physically, but like spiritually, I guess, and like looking down on yourself and reflecting, right? So I had a moment. It was the last week, like I said, of the 3 month stint I had there, and we were doing a regular session like we normally do. And I remember sitting there, and I cleared my mind, and it literally felt, Josh, like I like left my body, and I was like looking down at myself as like a ghost or like an energy or something. And it was the weirdest moment of my life. I've never felt anything like that. Still to this day, I haven't felt anything like that in my life. And I was like looking at me sitting down, and I was like, what the hell? And then I realized, and I snapped right back, and I was like, no, I was like, please no. And I never got it back again. I haven't been able to do it since then, but it was an interesting moment of enlightenment, I guess, or enrichment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a crazy experience. So I don't know if you've ever experienced something similar, but
that sounds a little more intense than what I've experienced. But I have certainly experienced moments where I felt like I was not my body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wasn't necessarily outside my body, but I was more than my body.
Mm-hmm. Body adjacent.
Body adjacent. Yeah. My experience has been somewhat parallel to yours in that it seems to work most effectively when you have dedicated a lot of time to it. And like are doing it as part of like a daily practice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when I first started doing it, I think I did about 40 days in a row, sometimes more than once a day.
Yeah.
And when I got a few weeks into it like that, I was definitely finding myself settling down into calmness, into stillness, like much quicker, and having these experiences where I felt a little less attached to myself,
right?
You know,
mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a beautiful thing, and I started to like feel this lasting effect that I could take through the rest of the day with me when I wasn't sitting in formal meditation. Like I'm going to the store to buy something, like just every interaction I had with other people and with the world felt kind of like a dance. It felt
that's nice,
like choreographed, and like we all knew all the steps, and it just was an amazing feeling. I have struggled to maintain that daily practice.
I was about to say, I'm like, I haven't meditated in probably 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I do try and do it every day, but I don't do it every day.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
It really is, but I certainly notice the most effect from it when it is like a constant like that. But that's not to say that, you know, when I do it a couple times a week, I don't appreciate it.
Of course.
And I really feel anybody and everyone can benefit from it. And you were mentioning mastery of it, and I think there are certainly monks that sit and do it for their, you know, most of their lives, and are probably very good at it, in air quotes.
Dude, my teacher, the monk at the temple, sorry, I didn't just cut you off, but to add to your point there, my teacher who I learned from at the temple, he would meditate for 5 hours a day.
Yeah, that's wild.
As a normal practice.
So crazy.
He would just sit there for 5 hours and meditate. I was like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I guess you, as a monk, you have the time and space to do that.
Just mastered it, man.
Certainly not practical for most people's lives, like
especially in the Western world, obviously.
Especially in the Western world, I think most of us feel like we don't have any spare moments in the day.
Well, and then you and I both being artists. I mean,
yeah.
Where's the time there? Where's the time?
It is really, and I think no matter what you're doing, it's really hard to feel like you have any extra time.
Yeah.
But you know, I in my experience, like, you don't have to have mastery of it to take benefit from it, and I think a lot of people think of it as like I call it calmness and stillness and stuff like that, but like I don't think that it necessarily has to be like the absence of thought. I think it just changes your relationship to your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure.
And like you can notice thoughts arising, but from a different perspective, where like you are not the thought, you are not lost in the thought. It is not of you. It is just arising.
Right.
And you know, in sitting and doing meditation, I constantly get lost in thought and identify with thought, and I think the whole practice, especially as, you know, a novice, is just recognizing, oh, I got lost. I was thinking, and I was identifying with that thought. I was like embedded in that thought.
Yeah.
But there's that like slight shift where it's no longer you are in it so much as you are adjacent to it, and you can say, I saw that thought.
Yeah.
And then you can just let it pass. It's just more about noticing. And yeah, being just that one step back from everything and having perspective over the state of your mind.
Absolutely. I believe they call that mindfulness now.
Yes.
That's the new practice that I've been learning a lot about recently is mindfulness. My therapist has talked to me a lot about it to help me deal with my whole not being present situation, like my dissociation. I don't know if I should probably get a diagnosis because I feel like I have dissociation disorder. I don't know for sure though, obviously, but I feel like mindfulness is such a big part of that. Like you said, taking a step back and processing your thoughts in a way that you wouldn't normally, like how your thoughts consume you most of the time during the day, right? When you're not thinking about it. But then when you're in that meditative state, you can kind of step back and gather your thoughts and see them more clearly and not let them take you over, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And that also grounds you, makes you more present. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's all about mindfulness.
There are whole schools of mindfulness meditation now.
Oh, yeah.
A specific, like, type of meditation practice.
Absolutely.
And, like, I think it can truly, like, it's like a muscle. You can build that up. And it's usually done through some sort of formal practice with it, but it becomes something that you can take with you as you are doing, you know, the rest of your day.
Yeah.
And just helps you take that extra breath and notice those special things.
Absolutely, man.
That presence, I think, is a really huge deal that mindfulness can provide.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's move along to the next question. I know you got to go soonish, but
I still got some time.
We'll power through the questions. Thank you again for being along on the journey, and this has been a great conversation so far. Yeah,
it's a pleasure. Feel free to edit it down in any way that makes sense.
Oh, I don't edit these podcasts. Rarely. Fair. If there's like a blip or something or a glitch, I edit it out. But like,
sure.
In my perspective, like mental health is way too important to cut stuff out. Like, if someone wants to listen to an hour and a half of this or however long it is, like, by all means. Or they can skip it themselves. It's fine.
Sure.
But yeah, man. So I have 2 segments coming up now that have become a staple of my podcast. So the first segment is called The Real Reels. And so The Real Reels is a segment that I created by accident, and now everyone wants me to keep doing it, so I have to keep doing it now. So it's basically about the darkest side of mental health. And this is kind of the part of the podcast where it's the most vulnerable, or I want it to be the most vulnerable. It doesn't have to be, obviously. Like, every guest is different, and every guest obviously has their limitations to what they want to talk about, which is totally fine. But this is the part of the pod where it's like, this is the real shit. That's why it's called The Real Reels. Like, this is mental health. This is what it is. Deal with it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm making this open, and trigger warning to anybody that doesn't want to hear it, obviously, but like, this is what it is. You know, like, why are we hiding? Why are we not talking about this more? This is, like you said, like we've been talking about this whole pod, Josh, is like, everyone deals with this in their own capacity. So why isn't it more normalized? Why is there still a stigma to talking about mental health? Why is it not being addressed properly? So this is kind of my FU segment to society of like, you know what? I'm going to talk about it. Yeah, I tried to kill myself a couple times. There. I'm not scared to talk about it. I know it's triggering to some people, so obviously, warning to anybody that gets triggered by this, you can skip ahead to the next segment. But that's kind of my point to this whole pod and this segment in particular. So there really is only one question in this segment, and it's just kind of like, what are some of the hardest or darkest moments you've had to face with your mental health?
I would say the most common darkness that I experience is just feels like just feels like there's more gravity. You know,
interesting.
I feel it's present some mornings when I wake up. It's just like the whole world is pushing down on me harder. You know, like certainly sometimes you'll start your day and everything seems like it's going fine, and then there'll be, you know, something that you have to deal with that can kind of flip a switch in you and ruin your day, so to speak, and change the good track that you were on. But I think, the most alarming thing for me is the days where I wake up already feeling like the day is ruined.
Yeah.
It's just like I open my eyes and the air is heavier. It's I can't get out of bed, and I like don't feel like eating. I don't feel like drinking water.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch TV. I don't really want to do anything other than just like stay in bed, maybe pull the covers over my head and like try and go back to sleep and try again tomorrow.
Literally me yesterday, dude.
Yeah.
I know how you feel.
It's a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
You know, I usually am able to be in a mindset of it being just like, okay, today's a write-off, but we'll try again tomorrow. And I have hope that there will be a better, brighter day around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it is more rare for me to get into a position where I like it doesn't feel tolerable and like I don't want to be alive anymore.
Okay.
But it is still like deeply unsettling to just be like,
Yeah.
today is over for me. Like
Yeah.
before it even began.
Of course. And like I said before, it's relative to your own experience, right?
Yeah.
Just because you don't want to kill yourself doesn't make it not bad,
Sure.
right? Like it's still enabling you to live your day properly. So
Yeah. And, you know, when you have an important day, something that you have to do, and it just turns out to be one of those days, that's kind of crippling.
yeah.
You can't do the best job of anything on those days, and
Definitely not.
it's a struggle.
How often do these days happen to you, Josh?
I would say since I started my journey with therapy, less and less.
Okay.
I'm trying now to remember the last one. It was probably within the last year, but it used to be so regular.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would stick around for a few days. I would wake up and have that experience and, you know, try and sleep it off and try again tomorrow. And then tomorrow would start just the same way. And yeah, it would go sometimes, you know, 2 to 5 days.
Yeah.
And then I would start to feel a little better and be able to kind of get up out of it. And it almost seemed like it was happening, you know, every 3 or 4 weeks. Sometimes more frequently, sometimes less frequently.
Yeah.
And yeah, like when I was in the depths of that, like obviously my wife would notice and would gently suggest that like you need some help here, some support.
Yeah.
And I would agree, but not feel capable of managing that in the deepest depths of that.
Yeah.
But then, as we spoke about earlier, when that would lift and I would have a better period, I would not seek out the supports then because I'm like, well, I feel fine right now.
Yeah.
Not quite remembering that when it's actually on me, I don't have the ability to seek out that support. So
Right.
it was certainly helpful to have her point out how regularly it seemed to be happening and how it seemed like a pattern.
Yeah, like a regular occurrence.
cycling. So I was less able to just be like, well, I'm fine now. I'm all better. Not realizing that how much of a pattern it was and how that inevitably it was going to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, through therapy and I think meditation, I've been able to find better ways to cope with those days and better perspective in like my relationship to those thoughts and feelings that I have, and it seems to be helping. And it's a lot less common now.
That's good to hear, man.
Another one will come at some point.
Yeah,
but,
that's kind of the whole.
It feels like it's been many months, if not like the better part of the year, since I had my last real serious depressive episode.
That's good, man. That's really good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm obviously like in the same kind of boat. Like obviously it's not as bad as it used to be when I was younger. I had a lot of episodes for months at a time, it seemed like. And then it slowly got easier when therapy came to my life, just like your experience. So it just takes time, and like you have to know how to manage those episodes when they happen, right? Like that's the biggest thing I think that's changed in the last couple of years for me is like they also don't come as frequently now, thank God, because my mind shift has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. And I've done a lot of self-reflecting, a lot of digging in therapy and stuff like that, which I'm sure you have as well, to get to the point where they stop happening as much. But then when they do happen to you, you're more equipped to deal with it properly, and they don't settle in and make themselves comfortable within you, those episodes, you know?
Absolutely. I think a part of my shift in dealing with it has been like a little bit more self-compassion. Not feeling like a failure or a huge piece of shit in the depths of it, but realizing like this is a thing that I deal with from time to time, and it's okay. And if what I need is to try and go back to sleep, or to, you know, just put something on TV, to listen to some music that I like, whatever, if that's like all I can do with that day, then like good enough. Like,
go easy on yourself.
I'm sticking it out. Yeah, exactly. Because I think it only makes it worse to put extra pressure on yourself to, like, you shouldn't be feeling this. Like, why are you like this? Like, it's like, this is just a thing that I deal with from time to time, and it's okay. And, you know, evidence shows that, you know, you've woken up and felt better after this. So there will be a brighter day ahead. I don't know when it will be, but just being, taking it easy on yourself and allowing whatever it takes to get through it, and not putting extra pressure on yourself.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you for sharing that, man. It means a lot to me, and I'm sure the audience that's listening and watching that that you experienced these things, and that you shared some of these dark moments with us.
Yeah, it's you know, it's not fun to talk about, and I don't know how fun it is to hear about, but I think it is an important thing to share this.
Yeah.
I think we all have different demons that we're battling, and being a little more transparent about that, I think only serves to make other people feel, you know, less alone in their own battles.
Absolutely, man. That's the whole reason why we do it here. So, but thank you for sharing that, man. I know it's like not, like you said, it's not easy to talk about these kind of things, and this segment is always a difficult segment to get through for a lot of my guests. And I've been pretty outspoken in my battle and stuff, and like my experiences, but that's just who I am. I'm an extroverted person. I thrive off being around other people, and my therapist has really helped me with addressing the issues that I've dealt with, and I'm pretty much an open book at this point. Like, I don't hold anything back, because like repression is an awful, awful thing, and I don't go spewing my shit everywhere, obviously. Like, I'm not going to tell a random stranger, but obviously you and I are established as friends, and my other guests that I have on, we become friends as it goes on, or we were friends previous. So I feel comfortable enough to talk about these things openly. But that all being said, like, some of the guests, obviously it's hard for them to talk about this kind of darker side of the mental health, right? Like the reality of it. So it means a lot to me that you opened up in this segment, and I'm sure everyone listening and viewing at home appreciate it as well, for being so open and honest with everyone here listening.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. You know, I think I like being able to share these things, and though it is not comfortable, it feels better after.
it does, it does feel better after, for sure. It's just a release, right? It's like, okay, right.
Yeah.
This heavy shit I'm bearing is off now, and other people can hear it and be like, oh, he deals with that too. Like, I'm sure I'm going to get some listeners that probably listen to your band that are going to check this podcast out and be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, Josh from Silverstein feels the same way that I do. That's cool. Or this random dude named Taylor also feels the same way that I do. That's cool. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Anyways, moving on to the next segment, which is much better than the last segment. This segment's called the Rainbow segment. Woo! Woo. So the Rainbow segment is coming out of the dark and into the light, as it sounds. And just kind of like, you know, this part of the pod is kind of like ending on a good note. Like, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You know, things do get better. Like you just said, there's going to be a day you wake up and it'll be okay. Like, we all have dark moments, but guess what? There are light moments to battle the dark moments. So this segment's just kind of like reflection and kind of like where we're at now with it all. And we've already addressed a lot of it already, but if you want to, again, elaborate a bit further, feel free. But first question, Rainbow segment is, are there any positive things you discovered during or still finding out about living with your mental health?
Oh, I think some of the tools I have gained or adapted through therapy are applicable in areas of my life that I wasn't anticipating.
Okay.
I think I just generally feel more equipped to deal with anything that comes my way. Even like really, really small things. I think I'm just able to reframe and notice my reaction to them.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm sitting on an airplane coming back from Vegas the other day.
Yep.
And the people next to me are kind of annoying. The guy like immediately takes his shoes off and he's watching sports on his iPhone with no headset, like through the speakers. And his wife, while he's doing that, is on her iPhone having like a speakerphone call with family, just having a conversation on speaker.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling pretty annoyed by all this.
Sure.
And I notice like I'm breathing more shallowly, and I'm tight all over. I'm clenching my jaw and my back and my arms. And I think before starting down the path of therapy, I might have dismissed or not even noticed all these kind of like physical signals that I was, dealing with something. But yeah, like I think through some of the things that I've done in therapy, I was like more capable of noticing the reactions in my body. I think previously I would have just been like, man, these people are fucking annoying. And I might have passively aggressively made a comment or acted kind of like in a huffy way, slammed my seat table or something, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was able to just be like, I've noticed that my breathing is really shallow. I've noticed that I'm kind of clenching muscles. I'm having a reaction to this, but like these people are not trying to be annoying. They are just on their own journey or on their own trip. And they had a different, different relation to what you think the social norms should be for this occasion. And that's okay. You don't need to try and police them or chaperone them or educate them on how they should be acting in this circumstance. I should control what I can control, which is my breath and my muscle tension, and my thoughts, not have these kind of cycling thoughts of like, I hate these people, fuck these people, why are these people acting like this? They suck. I can notice those thoughts swirling like that and just try and reframe and take a new perspective and slow my breathing, deepen my breathing, relax my muscles. And in doing all those things, I felt a lot less upset about these people.
Yeah.
Small things like that. I feel like that was...
Did you have headphones with you?
I did have headphones with me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just gonna be like, all right,
canceling.
I'll just put headphones on. Boom, problem solved. Kind of thing. So,
I think I would have previously just taken all of that a lot more personally, as if it was like an attack or an affront to me.
They're out to get you. Specifically.
I am positive I have no place in their mind.
Nope.
And I mean, maybe that's part of what I'm annoyed about. It's like, how are you not being more considerate? But it's also like, I don't know their story. I don't know what they have dealt with, what they are dealing with.
Yeah.
And I know what I can control, and that's my own personal reactions. And I can try and clean up my mental space, think better, more balanced thoughts.
Sure.
And deal with it.
Well, and then like at the same side of the coin, it's just like, why would you waste your energy or create more anxiety within yourself for that situation, right? Like, you already deal with your own anxiety as it is, and then you getting worked up about this is just causing more anxiety, more stress that's not really that necessary.
Yeah.
Right? So that's an interesting way that dealing with mental health has kind of helped external factors. It's very interesting to hear that.
It's been cool the way it has transitioned into, all aspects of my life.
Yeah. Again, I think like it's a mindset thing too, right? Like,
I think so.
You're shifting your mindset in dealing with your mental health, and therefore you as a person. And other situations that you'd be dealing with, you can put that same practice in effect and be like, okay, you know what? This isn't as bad as it is.
Yeah.
Just take a deep breath, practice meditation, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Have you found any constructive ways or solutions in dealing with your mental health struggles? I mean, obviously, we talked about quite a few of them already, but meditation being one of them.
Meditation being a huge one of them. Yeah, like I said it before, I'll say it again. I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are maybe curious about it and attempt it and feel like they're failing at it, and get frustrated, which is the exact opposite of the point of it. So I think there are apps out there that can kind of guide you, that can be very helpful. And I think they are generally pretty gentle in the way that they introduce you to a lot of the concepts. And in my experience, they have done a pretty good job of reassuring you and reframing those kind of frustrations around it.
Yeah. Headspace is a good one.
Headspace is a great one. I've also I've had subscriptions to a bunch of different ones. I'm currently using Waking Up.
Okay. I've heard of that one.
Also an excellent one. Headspace was designed in partnership with a Buddhist monk.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
So it comes from a bit of a Buddhist background.
That's why I like it so much, probably.
Yeah, it's great. And I did it I subscribed for a year, really enjoyed it. But then once the year was up, I was like, oh, let's try a different one and see. Like, I know what this one's about. I can always come back to it.
Yeah.
Waking Up is kind of led by a neuroscientist. So it comes from a bit more of a science background than a kind of traditional spiritual background. They are both very similar, but just with a slightly different flavor to them.
Right.
And yeah, like I think the whole thing is not allowing yourself to get frustrated and realizing that, like, in attempting to do it, you are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not clearing your mind. It's not changing anything so much as your perspective within yourself and just making space in yourself to notice your thoughts rather than be your thoughts.
Right.
And yeah, like, it gets easier the more you do it, and just doing it is doing it. Like, there is no failing.
Yeah.
Unless you are not
even doing it in the first place.
To do it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge, man. Thank you for sharing that with our with the audience here. That's cool. I always love giving them opportunities to better themselves, you know, at the end of the pod, especially when we're in the rainbow segment of, like, talking about getting better and, like, managing it better. Like, it's always good that I have guests come on and, like, describe what they're using to get better. Because, like, everyone's different. Like you said, like we've been talking about this whole time, everyone's affected differently. But the more methods we talk about how you get through it and how I get through it, helps everyone out because it gives them more options to deal with things, right? So
absolutely. Yeah. And, like, one of the things I like the most about it is it's something that you can take with you anywhere. Like, it doesn't require any equipment, any external things. It's one of those things, like I was talking about with medication before. Like, if you were somehow all of a sudden stranded in the woods, like, it's something you would have with you no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, So
Exactly.
I think things like that are super important. I don't have to, when I'm annoyed by people on the plane, I don't have to pull out, something that
Headspace on my phone.
Yeah, I don't even have to do that at this point. I can just connect with my breath and pay attention to it and notice my thoughts and not be ruled by them.
Yeah.
So I think it is super useful that way.
It's a great
no
tool,
where
man.
you are, you have what you need to do that with you.
Absolutely. And another big one that I'll add, and I'm sure you'll agree because you talked about it earlier in the pod, is nature.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge.
Can't be understated.
Like and I know anybody out there that's like, well, I don't want to go for a walk. Just go for a walk, man.
Just go for a walk.
So good for you.
And really, even if you can't be out in nature, if you live in the middle of the city, like, you don't have to get in a car and drive out into the woods.
There's still parks.
Literally moving your body. Going for a walk. A park is better than a city street, I think.
Yeah.
It just moving and, I think that can really change things.
Absolutely.
I've often, in the depths of a feeling, I'm deeply resistant to things that are going to make me feel better sometimes.
Oh, of course, we all are.
And I'm like, fuck that. That's not going to help. Like, I am this feeling. Like, there's no way this is going to change. And then I'll get out there and I'll be walking and I'll be like, this is stupid. This isn't working. And then it's not until by the end of the walk that I'm like, oh, yep, that did help shift things. It's so easy to get kind of stuck in it and be resistant to it.
Of course. I mean, like we've said, the whole theme of this pod is everyone's different, obviously, and everyone has to figure out their balance and what works best for them, right? And
absolutely,
I think there's just some options that people can use, and I think nature is super important. Like you said, in any capacity, it could be a park in a big city, or as simple as just going for a walk and getting fresh. Well, if you live in Toronto, fresh air. But
I think the air outside, even though there's pollutants in it, it's probably better than the air inside.
It's better than the stale air in your house.
And even just a change of scenery.
Yeah, exactly.
You can feel like the four walls around you are crushing in on you, and so just leave that room, go to a different room if that's all you can manage.
Exactly. You'd be surprised.
If you can do better and go outside somewhere, even better. But
exactly,
just changing something.
Yeah, change the scenery, change the vibe.
Yeah,
it'll help.
I think so.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, any final thoughts or feelings you want to express to the listeners and the viewers? Could be a message of hope or any advice for people dealing with similar issues as yourself. Just any kind of final thing you want to say to all the A Mental Break podcast listeners and viewers.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've touched on this a lot, but just the fact that you, while you feel tremendously alone, are not alone.
You're not alone.
You're really not.
The Seosin song, you're not alone.
Yeah. I know it feels like kind of an empty platitude, but the fact of the matter is you are not alone. No matter what, there are other people dealing with the same thing. It is a very personal, isolating thing to deal with. And for great portions of it, you will have to navigate it alone. And it does feel personally yours, but there are many, many, many people suffering alone as well. And I don't know how much that helps to hear, but it is not just you that is experiencing what you are experiencing. It is uniquely yours, but there are so many people affected in similar ways that if you can find some support, whether it be from friends or family or a larger community, I think that goes a long way. And certainly getting some sort of professional help through therapy, medication, what have you. I think just connecting and starting the process is very impactful. And I didn't see my way out of this, and I certainly am not out of it, but I am working through it, and it has made such a difference in my life. And I wish for everybody that is struggling with anything that they can find some sort of support to help them struggle through it. And thank you, Taylor. I really appreciate you doing this, and I think it's a very important thing. And I applaud you for being brave to talk about your own things and to take the initiative to have other people come and talk about what they're experiencing, and helping create a community.
Thank you, buddy. That means a lot, man.
For people.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it's just a small thing I can be doing. I mean, there's so many other things I can be doing, but this is as big as the capacity I can handle right now. So, but no, thank you, man. That means a lot.
I think that's all that really matters, is doing something.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how small it is.
Exactly.
I know in my every aspect of my life. I heard this saying recently, and I've really latched onto it, but it's something to the effect of like letting perfect be the enemy of good. I think.
Ooh, interesting.
We all too often, this is certainly me, I don't know, I think a lot of people probably do this, but you feel like if you can't do something all the way, like what's the point in doing anything?
Right.
And so, like, if I can't be perfect at this, like, I'm just not even going to try.
Yeah.
But I think doing something, no matter how small, is tremendously better than not doing anything. And you don't have to go all the way with anything. You can take a tiny little step, and it's many tiny little steps together create a big thing. So
that's very well put, man.
Take a first tiny little step. Don't be put off by the fact that you're not solving the problem with that one step.
Yeah, that's very well put, man. And like I do enjoy doing this podcast and creating this safe space for people. And I know it's not a lot, but like you said, it's a baby step
something
in the right direction. It's
something.
Creating something, like the world needs places like this, and if like I said from the top, if I can be a small slice of the pie in a big pie that is a safe space for people that deal with mental health, that's amazing. But thank you for those last words, man. That's really cool, and I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate it. And like we've been saying this whole time, like we all go through this together, and you heard it from Josh, from Silverstein himself, and from myself, and from many other people that are not on this podcast. You know what I mean? Like, even if you can't relate to us, there's still more people out there that have a different experience and stuff like that. And, we're all in this together, and let's just be kind to each other. Let's drink water. Let's meditate if we can. Go for a walk in nature, do all the good things for each other, All right, man. Well, I just want to say thanks again for being on the show. I really, 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 really appreciate it. Like I said, I've been a huge fan of you guys forever. And we've been chit-chatting for the last couple of years, but it's finally nice to sit down and have a conversation like this.
Absolutely.
It's not often one that you begin with someone.
Not often enough.
But that's the point. Exactly. There you go. I'm glad that it started off this way.
Yeah.
And do you want to shout out anything? Any plugs you want to throw out there? I always give the space for the guests to like kind of shout out their stuff.
We talked about the new record already. That's I think the most important thing here is
mental health,
the meat of the conversation here. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I always leave a space at the end, like, because people are curious about the guest or whatever, just throw it out there. Sure. I'll do your plugs for you, Josh. Check out Misery Made Me. It's out now on all streaming platforms and vinyl and all that stuff. You guys are on tour in Europe, right?
We head to Europe to finish out the year, and then we'll be back next year doing more touring all over.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are playing Heart Support Fest.
Yes, we are.
I'm gonna try and buy tickets to that.
Cool.
And hope that it doesn't get canceled.
I hope it won't. It's Florida, so it could rain, but
don't even put in the ether, man. Don't manifest it.
It's a great lineup. I'm really looking forward
It's
to it.
It's an amazing lineup. Yeah. I'm so stoked, man. My same buddy and I are gonna buy tickets to go. So this is round 2. And if it cancels, I'm gonna be so mad.
Yeah, this one's gotta work out. All right, man. And where can people find you if they want to reach out, buddy? I am most active on Instagram of all the social media platforms. I'm at Tourbeard.
At Tourbeard. You heard it.
Yeah, I'm Tourbeard.
Tourbeard.
I go on tour and I grow a beard.
Is that where the name comes from? I've always been curious. Yeah. You're on tour and you have a beard.
It's like a playoff beard, but it's I'm not a sports guy. I'm on tour. No.
That's so awesome. All right, Josh. Well, thanks again, buddy. I really appreciate you being
Pleasure,
on, man.
Taylor. Yeah,
And,
thank you so much.
Yeah, man, it means a lot that you're on here, and thanks for sharing your story with us. It really means a lot, and I'm sure that people also feel grateful about it as well. So
Cool. Yeah, I'm happy to have been here, and thanks for giving this platform.
awesome, man. Well, to all you guys listening and watching, thank you so much. If you really like it, give it a like on Spotify, follow it and stuff, or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume your podcasts. All the video versions are on YouTube at A Mental Break Podcast on YouTube. Give that a like and subscribe. Yeah, I always just kind of send off the pod with drink water, call somebody, tell you I love them. That's so understated these days. Like just telling people you love them. Josh, I love you.
Love you, Taylor.
And yeah, just thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. All right, bye guys.